Episode 36 this week, Journey to Babel. Journey to Babel, one of the better episodes they ever did of any of the series. Fairly good this week. They start out with the Enterprise headed to pick up the Vulcan ambassador because they're traveling to a peace conference at a place called Babel. They already have dozens of other races represented in the commissioners and ambassadors and so on and so forth. They pick up the Vulcan contingent. Captain Kirk's like, hey, my first officer, Mr. Spock, will take you on a tour of the ship. And the Vulcan ambassador says, I think I would like someone else to give me that tour. Well, Captain Kirk's like, that's strange, but okay, he said. And then he tells Mr. Spock, hey, we'll be here for a little while. Why don't you go visit my parents? And Spock's like, they are my parents. You already met him because he just spoke to you. And Kirk was like, oops. That's awkward. And it was. And so Captain Kirk's trying to do the tour. He tries to get Spock to explain something regarding the computers as an icebreaker, apparently. Sarek, Spock's father, and of course the ambassador says, I gave Spock his first lessons in computers. He can't teach me anything. And Spock's mother tried to explain to Kirk privately that things were very tense because Spock went to the Federation and joined Starfleet rather than stay with the Vulcan Science Academy. Apparently, that didn't sit well with Sarek. Then Captain Kirk sees that there's an argument with one of the delegates and Sarek. Things get a little tense. They soothe that over. And then a little while later, they find that ambassador dead. He's had his neck broken. So they're trying to figure out who could do that. Spock's like, my dad could. He's an expert at that. It's old Vulcan technique. So Kirk was like, well, that's unfortunate. So they go to question Sarek. They find the wife there by herself. And then when Sarek comes in, he's like, yeah, it wasn't me. And then he has some sort of attack. And they're like, oh, has this ever happened before? And the wife's like, no, never. And he's like, 3 times. One just 20 minutes ago. So I couldn't have killed the ambassador. Oh, they rush him to sick bay. McCoy wants to do surgery, but he doesn't want to risk it. Spock's willing to be a blood donor so he can do the surgery because he's got the only matching blood type. McCoy says it's too risky even with the experimental medicine that he has access to that would potentially work. He doesn't want to risk it on Spock. And Spock says, well, you could if you want. McCoy's like, no, it's fine. And Captain Kirk meets up with this Andorian in the hallway. The Andorian's trying to kill him. Captain Kirk's throwing drop kicks, hitting snapmares, gets stabbed in the side, but then he knocks out the Andorian with the snapmare of all things. Breaks off his antenna as well. Contacts Spock to let him know. Oh, Kirk's in the sick bay. And then McCoy's like, oh yeah, by the way, Spock, your father is going to die, so I have to do that surgery I refused to do earlier. Spock says, well, forget it. Now I can't leave the bridge. Not normal circumstances, so I have to stay at my post. McCoy's like, but he'll die. And Spock's like, well, you should have done the surgery hours ago, like I said. Then Spock's mother begs him to do the surgery. She's like, you can relinquish command. Spock's like, no, I can't. We're in a weird situation. The captain's had his life attempted. There's a ship out there that's got messages coming and going. Because I forgot to mention that part. There was a strange transmission that kept coming into the Enterprise and being sent out. They couldn't track it. Much to Uhura and Kirk's chagrin. But Mr. Spock refuses to do the surgery. When Kirk comes around, he tells McCoy, I'll go to the bridge, tell him I'm fine. And then when he leaves to come here, I'll hand command over to Scotty. Everybody wins. McCoy's like, well, that'll work. So Kirk gets to the bridge, tells Spock he's fine. Looks like he's fine when he's saying it. And Spock's like, well, that's weird, but okay. He goes to do the surgery, and right when Kirk starts to call Mr. Scott, they get attacked. So Kirk's like, I'll just sit here on the bridge and bleed out, I guess. There's a big battle going on. Spock's in the middle of the surgery with Sarek. McCoy's barely keeping them alive because the ship keeps rattling. They lose power. It was a horrible surgery, but he managed to get through it. They traced the transmission to this Andorian, and they get him to the bridge because they realized he was not really Andorian. He was just cosmetically altered. He didn't even have actual antenna. They were like transmission devices he had put on his head. Now the ship blows up because they weren't going to let anyone be taken prisoner except for the one prisoner they had. And he's like, oh yeah, by the way, I took poison. And then he died. Right there on the bridge. They never figured out who was behind it or why or what. Sarek survived because of the surgery McCoy did. Spock was fine, even though it was experimental surgery. And he ordered Kirk back to sickbay. And he got the last word in. He was very pleased with themselves. McCoy gets the last word in. A rarity, but once in a while it'll happen. Some interesting notes in this one. It was the second appearance of the actor that played Sarek. Leonard was his name. And he played a Romulan before. He played the Romulan commander that blew up in the ship because he self-destructed. Now he's back as Spock's father. First appearance of Jane White is Amanda, the wife of Sarek, the mother of Spock. They reprised her roles a few times, most notably in the movies in the 80s. They were on a couple of the movies. And, of course, Sarek reprised the role in Next Generation, but it was a different wife. Also very interesting to know that despite the fact that they referenced him several times throughout the whole episode, Mr. Scott not seen one time in the entire episode. Never showed him, never heard from him. And they just kept referencing him. It's also the first time we saw the Tellarites. Little short argument of race. First time we saw them. Most of these races were seen either in the movies or the animated series later on, but most of them made their debut in this episode. Well, pretty much that's episode 36.